All right, so let's talk. So after spending 12 years working in corporate, engineering, technician, marketing, project management, et cetera, I left that to become a middle school math teacher. Taught for 2 years and loved it. The first year was my favorite year working anywhere professionally. Second year is when COVID hit. And my tutoring business that I had just started, like demand started skyrocketing, and my love for teaching kind of diminished a little bit because I wasn't able to, have those special moments with students and things like that in the hallways or during recess or, dismissal outside and all that kind of stuff. And so I had to make a decision. I left, teaching so I can pursue my entrepreneurial journey. And that's going really well. I've been doing it for 5 years. Tutor, math, piano, English language arts. Been doing it for 5 years. That's my main, source of income for sure. But there's a lot that I do in the content space, as you guys, of course, know, from, YouTube channel videos, social media posts and brand sponsorships and all that good stuff. And I've been doing both of those kind of in parallel for about 5 years. And recently, I actually maybe about a year or two ago, I had like this idea about wanting to get back into corporate. And I think it's for a few reasons. I think number one, anytime I'm kind of doing the same thing or something very similar for a number of years in a row, even dating back to my time at Verizon, it was kind of my internal clock saying that it's time to mix things up and do something different. That's when I would kind of move to a different department and learn something new. And I feel like I've been this solopreneur and have, unlimited flexibility. There's so much positivity, about being an entrepreneur. And then there's so many things that unless if you are in the space and, have experienced it, so many different things that are challenging, with being an entrepreneur. There's a lot that I've learned over the years. And so having some, more stable situation, especially being a parent and these expenses as being a parent and things like that we had to sort of adjust to. In my mind, I felt like, there was a financial reason for it. There was a reason of missing certain aspects of, corporate life, quite frankly, things that I was ready to get away from after 12 years doing it. But things like collaborating and, having a set routine that I have to show up as opposed to have to show up for myself, being the business owner. And, my plan was to, and I say /is, to work and still do the things that I'm doing here, like tutoring and running the business and content and stuff, but just kind of like I'll have a lot less hours for those things. So it'll kind of force me to be more intentional with how I spend those times, right? If I have 3 hours to do content stuff per week and I have 8 hours to do tutoring stuff per week, just for example, and 40 hours of working somewhere else, it would make those 8 and 3 hours just a lot more impactful, I feel, versus having unlimited time, So that was kind of the pretense to this situation that I recently had where I was interviewing for a senior technical program manager role, okay, at Amazon. And it was quite the vigorous process. It was a phone screening with the recruiter that went well. Got moved to the next level. Then it was a phone interview with a fellow person doing the role that I was interviewing for on a different team. That went well, got moved to the next level. And then it was a 5-part interview with 5 different people spread across 2 days. They call it an interview loop. One person was the hiring manager. One person was a bar raiser. You can Google that if you're interested in knowing what that means. Let's see. One person was a peer of the hiring manager. And then I think 2 other people were, two other interviewers were people doing the role. One on the team I would have been going to and one on a different team. Okay. Those interviews went overall pretty well. One of them was super technical. I haven't been in this technical space for a while. I have the aptitude. I have more than just the aptitude to understand almost anything technically, I believe. But that interview didn't go that well, right? There were a lot of questions that were asked that I could do my best trying to answer them, but I didn't have experience with. So I did my best, and that was okay, And then the rest of the interviews overall went somewhere between good and great, in my opinion. But I think what was interesting is there was a few things about this role, right? This role would have paid crazy money. Awesome. But It would have required me to go into the city up to 5 days a week, every week. It would have required me to be prepared for international travel, what I was told, 2 weeks out of the month, 2 weeks per month. And so there's some positive and negative with that, right? Positive is just completely changing things up. I'm going into the city. I'm bringing my OP1 OP1 Feel, OPXY, whatever, on the train. I'm making music on the train. I'm maybe doing some work on my laptop on the train. So that's not time lost at all. I'm like working. Just like I'm at a cafe, but I'm on a train. So that's not time lost per se. The international travel would have been significant to me and my wife's lifestyle, but I was prepared for it, right? I was prepared to, if I had gotten an offer, to negotiate the salary, and I got to reach out to some people too that are waiting to hear back from me on that, but negotiate the salary and negotiate the parameters a little bit, right? That's what I was going to do. I was gonna let's see about 3 days a week into the office, and let's see about, I don't know, something else about the international travel, maybe 2 weeks out of every other month or something like that, right? To figure out something that could work with our lifestyle. But what's interesting here is I didn't get the offer. I felt, a little bit sad, a little bit, honestly. I wasn't devastated or anything close to it. I wasn't surprised either, because I said to two people in the interview, and this is blasphemy. If you're looking to get a job, you probably don't want to say this, I guess, on an interview, but I was letting my honesty shine. I wasn't like in a position where I'm like, I'm going to say and do whatever I need to do in order to get an offer. That was what some people said you should do, and maybe I should have. I don't know. But I didn't do that. I care more about honesty. I care more about, let me lay out all my cards on the table, be authentic with you guys, and, see where that gets me. So I told them that I felt like there were probably other people that were interviewing for this very position that were probably better, and maybe even, I think I might have said, a lot more qualified than me, that have been in corporate for years longer, that have been doing this specific role at different companies, that are peers of Amazon, contemporaries. And what I'm doing is something very, very different. It's different. I'm a content person and a musician, and we're talking about doing stuff it's very, very different, but doable, and stuff that I felt absolutely capable that I would be able to knock out the park. That's the honest truth. But what's interesting is, now that I know that that's not on the table, right, that specific role, maybe other roles at Amazon might be, hopefully, right, I think I did a good job there to kind of hopefully say, like, oh, well, there's creative and marketing and content and video and Twitch and all these other things that are happening at Amazon that, undoubtedly I'd be a better fit for. So maybe one of those do pop up eventually. But I do feel a couple things. I feel like today being the first full day that I've grasped this information after not knowing, the situation for about a month, right? It's been like a month-long interview process. I feel a few things. I feel like just a sense of appreciation, honestly. Like, I was spending time and I was being present with my kids and my mom just earlier today, sitting outside on this beautiful day. When I was picking up my son, and brought my daughter over to my parents' house like I do every Wednesday. And it was just like, oh, okay. Like, and even today, my daughter's school, they had this Earth Day garden, plant thing, event that I was able to go to. And I'm just like, I would have missed out on a lot of things that I was prepared to miss out on for about a year or 2 years, depending on, how long I stayed in this specific role. But you don't get those years back. You don't. And while I could honestly say that I am sometimes exhausted being a parent of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and having all the different hats that I need to wear and kind of traversing this. It is exhausting at times, yes. But it's also something that, in a way, there would have been some positive, in my opinion, of having something to mix things up a little bit. There would have been, some good things and some bad things about the role, as we kind of, indicated earlier. But ultimately, I don't know. I feel intentional about what I'm doing right now, more intentional than I have been for quite a while. There's still ambiguity and still uncertainty on some of these ideas that I have, like which one do I pursue and where do I pay more attention to and how do I do this and all. There's all those thoughts in my head, but I do feel a lot more intentional. I will also say that in like this idea in my mind about working for corporate and I say corporate, but just working at a company, right? And having a 9 to 5 and having benefits that maybe I can have my wife have the ability, if she wants, to stop working where she's at and be like, hey, Jess, you're going to do something that you enjoy now. Like I've been doing for 5 years. I enjoy this content and this journey. I've enjoyed it. But the fact is that is still something I'm interested in. I would say very interested. But what's interesting about this whole thing is what excites me. Well, if someone is listening to this video and watching this video right now, if there's an Ableton or a Teenage Engineering or a Patreon or a Bandcamp, I'm just throwing some things, some names of companies that I've work with. I don't know about Korg, Roland, Yamaha. What am I missing? I'm missing a lot of companies. Adam Audio, I have their speakers here. Arturia, I have their mic here. I'm missing some things. I don't know. But like any of these companies that I've worked with from a content, music, creative perspective, if there's an opportunity at one of these companies where I'm getting, paid half of maybe what I would have gotten at this Amazon role, but it's something that I feel like good about dedicating time to, and it's something that I feel positive about, like this is a good thing to do, and it has flexibility, like it's fully remote, or maybe it's just 2 days in the city or something like that. That is something that I'm still excited about. However, I'm not resting on my laurels and saying that like I'm doing whatever it takes to get that opportunity. I think the path forward is I've done a lot of work to establish this foundation that I have right now that I'm sure. And I don't care about what other people think, but I would imagine that other people might look at this and be like, that's cool what he's doing. He is an entrepreneur. He has flexibility. He can do that, do this. Like, that's great. And I've had that for 5 years. But I do think the path into getting one of these roles that just makes me feel excited, which I think is important. I talked to my wife, and I was like, babe, we need to have a quick conversation about this role, because if this offer comes in, what do you feel about me taking this role versus not? What's your honest opinion? She was happy with it. She was like, the money would be awesome for the family and to give us opportunity to do certain things and all that. Yeah, she's absolutely right about that. But when I talked to her again downstairs, she was basically saying like, she wants me to be happy. She knows what it's like being in a position that you're not happy with. And who knows if I would have been happy with this specific role or not. We don't know. But the fact is that spoke volumes. That was like her saying, what I care most about is whatever you're doing, I want you to be doing something that you feel good about, not something that you're doing just to do, because that's not what makes sense for this family. And that spoke to me a lot, because in that moment, I don't know. I appreciate it. First of all, it made me want to accept it more and be like, nah, that's cool. It takes a lot to make me not happy. Like I'm kind of cool and even keeled as it comes. So like I think I would have, been awesome with that job, and I think it would have been good for sure. But I do think that there's something better out there for me, and I don't know. It's just interesting how things kind of happen, right? I'm gonna continue figuring this whole thing out and continue putting emphasis and time and effort into the things that I'm currently doing. I have some awesome families that I'm working with for my tutoring business. I have some great companies that I'm working with for brand partnerships that make sense, where I can talk freely about products or freely about whatever that I want to talk about, and they're just sponsoring the video, like my Mastering Chords video that BandLab is sponsoring. That's cool. They're paying me money to just put their name on the series, and the series is just about me teaching chords. That's beautiful. Like, I'm talking about chords. I don't have to worry about the videos doing, at least not right now. Maybe down the road they're like, wait a second, these videos, I don't know. But I mean, the videos are doing well. They're educating people how to play my favorite chord progressions, and that just makes sense. It's like, all right, that's easy to do. I got the camera, so I got everything set up over there. Got the nice microphone. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of different thoughts that I have, but I just wanted to do this little stream of consciousness kind of thing. I think this is important to talk about this, because in a year from now, or 6 months from now, or even a few months from now, you never know what opportunities are going to present themselves. And I want to be able to look back in this moment and be like, all right, yeah, Kev, you took it, you took it like a champ. I think, when I text a few people who I've, selectively let in about this interview process and stuff. You know, one person that works for Amazon, for example, that's been, you know, hugely beneficial, giving me just some insights and tips and stuff, as well as the hiring manager, who was hugely instrumental to just get my foot in the door just for this process. It's been a really great process, like being like, all right, let me shut everything else out for a couple weeks. Let me just lock in. And that's what I did. And it wasn't a waste of time. I had to do that, of course, to give myself a chance. I learned a ton in the process. And I'm motivated. I'm excited. There's a lot of good stuff. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit about that, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching / listening, and I'll see you later. Peace.